Greetings, salutations, and good now. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Kevis Major, doing it major. And in this video, we're going to be talking about new moon in Leo. New moon in Leo. All right, so today is the 10th. Where's my watch? I need to put my watch on. But today is the 10th of August, 2026. So that takes us about 20 days or so into the Leo season. And guys, this week we got a lot going on. But for the most part, we're gauging up, or we're getting ready for this new moon. That's going to be a new moon on steroids, because we know that we are having the moon and it's also going to be conjuncting the sun. So typically during the new moon, we step into a new mood, right? A new emotion, a new way of, reacting and responding to the world around us. Also, the sun is going to be there, and so it could be a bit of confusion, right? It could be a bit forceful. It could really accelerate timelines. The moon, which rules the darkness, is going to be illuminated, right? And so it's going to be exposing things that are hidden while we are going into this new chapter. And so because it's eclipse in Leo, the spotlight is on, identity, confidence, visibility, creativity, pride, leadership, your joyful energy, romantic energy, how you could use your gifts and talents to connect with others, being performative, being entertaining. You could do something so good, you're so confident at doing something that it looks like entertainment to others, but it's not necessarily so easy done as it looks, right? And so all of that is the Leo energy. And so, this new moon could be a time where certain blockages could be removed, right? Once, that light comes back on, you can't pretend that you haven't seen it at all, right? And so there's certain sparks or certain emanations of self that are going to be revealed, right? Or exposed, certain latent aspects of yourself, or certain aspects of yourself that were in the darkness, are going to be coming forth during these times. I'm saying, a new moon. So the moon definitely is going to be bringing forth new light, and with the sun right there at the same time, fire upon fire, right? Also, we got Mercury entering Leo. So not only do we have sun, moon, but we also have Mercury going there. And so when we look at Mercury, we look at Mercury as the mind, thinking, communicating, analyzing, processing information, and being able to share that information. But all of these things manifest from inside out, right? And so when Mercury shifts in Leo, our thinking, our mind could get a bit louder, right? And so we may want to express ourselves. We might get a bit more dramatic, theatrical, creative, even confident with how we express ourselves. But it's something that is happening internally. So we need to balance what's happening internally, because you might be saying, oh yeah, Mercury is in Leo, a great placement for communicating, but you may over communicate, you may overshare, you may over confidently express things that you should have balanced and run it through your internal system and choose the best thing to express or not, right? And so we could get quite confident, especially Mercury coming out of Cancer. Cancer is a bit more passive, so maybe a lot of things that we wanted to express were kind of bottled up, right? So don't get too egotistical with how you communicate and how you spread your information or whatever. People may speak for attention during this time instead of truth, and a lot of that is happening right here on the island, because it's the political circuit right now, circus right now. So we are in that time where people's mouth become loose cannons. So people may dramatize things, or feel like they have the right to be praised, right? They feel like you need to praise them, acknowledge them, and people feel like they are right in this time. Leo is quite prideful and confident, and so we need to stay away from debates and being too confrontational at this point, because some people are just arguing just to be heard, but not to build on what's true, right? And so another aspect or another alignment that's going to be heavy hitting is Mars moving into Cancer. And we know that Mars doesn't do well in Cancer. Mars doesn't like to be in Cancer at all, right? I mean, there are certain portions that he's going to do better than other portions, but for the most part, Mars ain't like to be here, right? So here Mars gets a bit defensive, a bit agitated, a bit frustrated, quite protective of, his mission of what he's trying to accomplish, what you're trying to do, quite um, family oriented, but family meaning concerning the people, places, things, circumstances, situations that make you feel more safe, right? Make you feel covered, make you feel protected. And so it's a sort of sensitive time when it comes to Mars and our passions and our motivations and the things that we are willing to fight for and the things that we, could get sort of aggressive about, either to manifest them or either to protect them. And so Mars in Cancer, fights for what they love, fights for what they're passionate about, fights for the thing that they want to protect. They also fight to prevent themselves from getting hurt or their feelings hurt or losing steam when it comes to your passion or motivation. And so you may be doing things subconsciously or consciously that protect you from losing steam, protect you from losing um, that comfortability that we've been working so hard to cultivate, right? This could also look like mood swings, right? Getting quite moody, going from being, jovial because the sun is in a jovial position. However, Mars is like, okay, I can't get too happy, what I'm saying, because I don't want anybody to have a mechanism to kick me down, what I'm saying. So let me go kick down myself a few notches, what I'm saying, just so I could be on a level playing field, what I'm saying, a level kill, so I could protect the things that I'm really, really trying to manifest, right? And so Mars is coming through with this real crabby protective energy. And I think this is great as we're going into this new moon, what I'm saying? It's going to be early degrees, but at least it gives us that extra energy or extra emphasis of protecting ourselves during this new moon in terms of, you know, setting up certain boundaries, limitations, restrictions, and all of that is Saturn. But we could lean into that, what I'm saying, lean into that type of energy as well. Saturn is in retrograde in Aries, and so we're molding or remolding our identity, and so setting up certain boundaries and limitations during this time are great, especially as we're going into this new moon. This new moon, what I'm saying, you want to try to go in as unadulterated or unaffected or uninfluenced by the external world as possible. And so Mars in Cancer, quite timely, right? We also have, and I wasn't bringing in any specific dates, but Mercury moves into Leo. That was yesterday. Mars in Cancer, that happens really tomorrow, and then the day after, which is the 12th, that's the new moon in Leo and the eclipse. And that's basically the main event. The new moon is happening around 20 degrees, and the solar eclipse follows, just around 20 degrees in Leo. 20 degrees is quite powerful because it's initiating that last 10 degrees. I think it's called a Nastature Decan, right? And so again, a powerful reset just coming out of the more fixated portion of Leo. Leo rules heart, creativity, confidence, your joyful energy, pride, performance, leadership, visibility, all things that, are seen or you want to be seen. The things that people see you doing easily and effortlessly, or so it seems, right? The thing that you could actually add to the world, the I like to call the Leo the grand stage, right? And so a regular Leo new moon, we set an intention around our light, what we want to, have on this grand playing field, right? But during the solar eclipse, the moon actually blocks out, partially portions of the sun, and so it starts disrupts the normal visibility, right? Slightly blocks it, and so it kind of is symbolic for something hidden that is going to be revealed. And as the moon moves away from in front of the sun, then the light returns, what I'm saying. So it could be seen as a blockage being removed, some shadow passing, something hidden kind of coming forth into the light on a bigger magnitude. We see it happening every day, but this one, because it only happens, every so often, we see this one as being quite significant. And is what you put your intention and your mind to, right? Everything starts from inside, You know what I'm saying? Interacts with the mind, and then the mind projects it out, right? And wherever the mind or consciousness goes, it kind of organizes, right? So you have to, use this for yourself, however you want to use this. So this eclipse again may reveal where, you've been dimming your light, certain blockages around pride, around visibility, around insecurity of you just performing you, right? Not even being performing, but just being seen, being you. And where you want attention, where you fear visibility or fear being seen, and how you want to, direct your spiritual gifts, right? Where you need courage in your life. And John Noah said we all need courage in these times. Um, and where our heart really wants to express itself, the direction that we want to be pushing our life in terms of identity, in terms of, what we want to express to the world. And so this is a major theme going through this new moon. All right, on the 15th, Mercury is going to conjunct Jupiter in Leo. I know this is specifically about the new moon, but we could also go ahead and talk about, Mercury's expansion by Jupiter. We already said that, Mercury is moving into Leo, so we're going to be more expressive. However, remember it starts internally, right? So the internal chatter gets a lot louder as well. And so that's something that you need to mitigate. You want to go meditate because you don't want to have all of these internal chatters, all of these internal things, especially if you're not doing good cleanses around new moon, releasing any outdated programs. And so you have all these additional chatters and all these additional things. A lot of them may be expectations from the world, expectations from society, or even things that you wanted to do that you didn't do. So Mars, which is your passions, motivations that are retrograde, that are delayed, and just all of these compounding things. And so you have Mercury bringing a lot more light, fire per se, to these starts and these things that are happening in your mind, and then you can't control them, and then you go expressing here, there, everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that we really need to be careful for. Right? You go and crash out. We know that Leo is a crash out sign because it's the grand stage, right? And so other people are going to be able to, experience it. Other people are going to be able to see it, to feel it. It's fire. So, it's seeing and also feeling. So that's something to look out for around the 15th, you know what I'm saying? When Mercury conjuncts Jupiter, bringing certain expansions, big ideas, big messages, big announcements, big opinions, big creative downloads or flunked out downloads, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes a lot of things be good, bad, or indifferent. And a lot of times you're on the indifferent to a bad side. And so this Mercury conjuncting Jupiter is great for not only speaking, teaching, content, branding, promoting, performing, storytelling, publishing, pitching, creative work, but also what's happening internally. You just having an expanded Mercury system, how you take in information, how you compute it, how you analyze it, how you process it, and how you register it after deciphering what is helpful, useful, and practical, right, to your life. And so that's one thing that we're going to be experiencing. We already talked about the fixed signs really being on the front stage, with Sun being in Leo. All of the fixed signs are squaring off. And so Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpios, especially, if you were born around anywhere between the 18th degree and the 22nd degree, so that would be from the 8th to the 12th, around there, of any sign, it's going to be a bit more tension, right, or a bit more intense this week. Last week was quite intense. I ain't gonna lie. That's why you guys ain't saw me last week. It was quite intense. However, it brought me to the realization that once a week ain't good enough. You know what I'm saying? We need to be a bit more consistent. We need to be a bit more on the forefront. You know what I'm saying? Gotta be a bit more confident with this thing. And so, more on the forefront, more videos and more teachings and more of my story, more of my truth, right? Because like we're not teaching anything that we don't know. We like astrology, astrotheology, all of the history, we've lived it, we've experienced it, but however, it's just that we are under so much education, you know what I'm saying? So much manipulation and psyops from the powers that be, right? Okay, so this week we need to balance the ego, right? Everything happens internally, externally, and so with the new moon, even with sun being in Leo, Mercury moving into Leo, the conjunction with Mercury and Saturn is in retrograde, and all of these things that are happening, they happen internally, externally. Externally, um, internally. However, we need to be the masters, right, of this um, externalization, internalization, right? A lot of times we are just reactive and responding to the world around us. We are not making the world react and respond to us, right? So now this is not to say we need to get egotistical, but just take more control of our power, because everything happens in the mind. The whole world is actually, a projection of our collective minds. And so the more you can control your mind and your emanation into the world, you know what I'm saying? And it could be so impactful to affect others. There you go, changing the whole goddamn world by changing yourself. So this is quite a powerful week. Um, don't get too egotistical, don't get too emotional, and don't let the old habits, you know what I'm saying, run you into a rut. New moon, you need to be, should have been releasing, letting go of outdated, things that no longer serve us, especially from an emotional standpoint. So again, this week is quite powerful. It could be a bit dramatic, it could be a bit intense. People want attention. And so, make people feel good. A lot of people may be feeling rejected as well because they want to be seen, right? So, give them that high five, give them that hello. You don't have to spend the whole world or, the whole day with them, but people are reacting to their pride and their ego. And so you don't want to be stepping on any toes at this time. People may also be ready to expose things that they were not ready to reveal before, again, because of this influence of Mercury, Hermes going through fire, right? All right, so on a final note, um, Mercury in Leo gives, fire to the voice. Mars in Cancer wants to protect your emotions. The solar eclipse, we could see that as removing blockages surrounding your confidence, your pride, your visibility. And then Mercury conjuncting Jupiter brings the expansion to whatever you're trying to project or whatever message you got going on. And so when the blockage is removed and your light comes back on, be ready to stand on what is revealed and what is being illuminated. Major farewell until we meet or greet again. I hope you guys find this helpful and useful, or at the very least entertaining. Make sure you hit a like, drop a comment down below, and hit the subscribe button to make sure that you get all of the video notifications. All right guys, I'll see you in the next one. Like I said, doing it major.